He said Nisha told him to go out and play snooker. So he asked her if she was sure, and she said yes. I told him not to be too long.
Faddy said he picked up his snooker partner at around 11:40 p.m. He then received 2 subsequent calls. The first at 11:56 p.m. was from a potential customer inquiring about limousine hire. The second, barely 5 minutes later, was about Nisha's stabbing.
He was walking towards the snooker club. He gets the phone call informing about his wife's assault.
Detectives tracked down his snooker partner. His version of Faddy's movements on the night of the murder checked out. 3 days after the murder, the investigation had stalled. The kitchen knife was still missing, forensic tests at the scene had drawn a blank, and worse still, detectives concluded the menacing phone call from Scotland was nothing more than an angry, idle threat. So detectives decided to make a public appeal for information, asking both Nisha's husband and brother to appear on TV. Both agreed, though their behaviour was markedly different.
Caton was not nervous in front of the camera, was openly talking about Nisha.
She was always there for me at the end of the line, just around the corner. She did pretty much everything for me as a sister.
Whereas Faddy came across as very nervous, his mouth was dry, he just seemed to be struggling, really.
Someone has got to know something, who lives around them, a neighbour, or seen some blood, or someone acting suspiciously or nervous. Just might not be important, but just give us a call and let us know.
Despite the widespread exposure, the appeal was unsuccessful. The police returned to square one, launching a new effort to find the missing murder weapon.
I wasn't prepared to stop looking for it until it became totally impractical to search further afield. So we just kept going, searching gardens, dustbins, railway embankments, a churchyard, cutting down undergrowth and just gradually widening those search parameters.
After 2 weeks of fruitless searching, the team were on the verge of giving up. Then, a breakthrough.
Finally, what we did is we searched the drains in Sudbury Avenue and the surrounding streets. On the 25th of May, in Harradine Road, at the junction of East Lane, we found in the drains the knife.
It was almost disbelieving, because I was beginning to think we weren't going to find it.
We got it.
It was a very exciting moment in the investigation. It was the first real step forward.
To prevent the killer finding out, police kept the discovery of the knife from the media. The only people they told were Caton and Faddy.
I told them that the knife would be sent off to the lab for analysis. But I said, please do not inform anyone about the finding of this knife, because that leak could jeopardize the investigation.
Well, I was so happy that we finally had a breakthrough. We thought, OK, come on, at least let there be a fingerprint on there, or let there be some sort of DNA on there. You know, something that can pinpoint and find who these people were.
While the knife underwent forensic tests, Faddy also appeared keen to learn as much as possible about developments.
I had non-stop phone calls from him, asking me if he had found anything on the knife, any DNA, any fingerprints, etc. And my only answer to Faddy was, if I had anything relevant to tell him, I would.
But the results from the lab would prove disappointing. The only DNA belonged to Nisha, and the only fingerprint was of an old friend of hers who'd visited some time before. Detectives now switched their focus to the drain where the knife was found.
Someone had to put the knife there, So how are we going to find out who put it there? We looked for CCTV, and probably the only drain in the whole search area that was covered by CCTV was that one.
The team were able to retrieve the camera's footage from the night of Nisha's murder.
Although the CCTV didn't cover the drain itself, it did allow us to see that a car had pulled up out of camera shot that would have been next to the drain. We could tell from that footage and from the way those headlights were shining onto the back of that parked car that the car had stopped there for 7 or 8 seconds before moving off. And clearly that was too much of a coincidence not for it to have been involved in the deposition of that knife in that drain. You can then see that car slowly manoeuvring back into the main traffic lanes. So we get a view of the side and the rear of that car.
The car was identified as a silver Audi A4 saloon. It appeared to have been circling the area on the night of the killing.
We carried on viewing the CCTV and we saw the same car shortly before the murder.
The footage was too grainy to read the car's number plate, but two vital elements made the Audi stand out.
There are two unique things about the car. One was that it had an aerial. That's unique because on the Audi A4s, they don't have an aerial on the roof. The second thing was one of the rear number plate lights wasn't working. So these are fairly unique things and made it a car that we felt we could find if we searched for it.
But finding the Audi wouldn't be easy. There were more than 18,000 of them in the southeast alone.
Officers were given postcodes to visit, and then they would go and look at every Audi in the postcode that matched that description. And as police officers, it became a guiding thing that if you saw an Audi, you would go and look at it.
As the investigation continued, Nisha's family, friends and colleagues faced another ordeal. On June the 1st, 2006, they said their final farewells.
The day of Nisha's funeral was so surreal. There were so many people. There was this really strange aura around. It's like the world had lost somebody so special, so precious. It's like time had stopped. It really was. It was like time had stopped. And everybody was just so sad. Everybody was so sad.
As with all funerals, the bereaved relatives relied on each other for support throughout the emotional day. But was this family as united as it seemed? Shortly afterwards, police made an accidental discovery, which was to shed new and disturbing light on the relationship between Nisha and her husband. The key was Fadi's mobile phone, which he had given to detectives when he told them about the threatening phone calls he had received. While re-examining the phone, one officer stumbled across some intriguing photographs.
On that phone, we recovered some images. One was the image of the face of a white female. And there was another, which was obviously a white leg. We realized that that couldn't have been Nisha. And the background to where that leg was looked like a hotel room because you had a mirror at the back, and the linen in the room looked like it was a hotel room.
I went to meet Fadi again and asked him if he was having an affair, as that potentially could give us additional motives or reasons for his wife's death. He looked straight back at me and said, "No, Nick, I would never do that to Nisha. I loved her too much."
But Fadi was lying. Within hours, he called the family liaison officer to change his story.
He explained to me that he was having a relationship.
Pardon?
And I asked him when that relationship had begun.
Fadi, the grieving husband, had been hiding a secret lover. And crucially, their affair had begun just months before Nisha's death. The police had a new suspect.
Clearly we needed to know about his mistress. Could she potentially had a motive to attack Nisha, if not kill her.
Three months after the fatal stabbing of Special Constable Nisha Patel, the police made an unsettling discovery. Her husband Fadi had been having an affair that started just months before her murder.
We established that Fadi's girlfriend was called Laura Mokeen. She was a Lithuanian national and had been working in the UK in a brothel.
Fadi met Laura when she was working as a prostitute in Victoria. And then they'd formed a relationship and she'd basically stopped charging him.
At least one of the investigation team wasn't surprised that Fadi had cheated on his wife.
I'd be around Fadi from time to time and he was quite flirtatious and charming towards me. He clearly was, you know, a lover of the ladies.
Police soon established that 26-year-old Laura was no casual fling. Investigations revealed that before Nisha's death, Fadi had even taken her on a secret holiday.
Shortly before the murder, he went to Egypt. He told his family that he had a sick uncle in Cairo. We looked at the flight manifest. On the flight leaving and on the flight coming back was Laura Mokeen's name.
Initially, the police suspected Laura of being involved in the murder, but she turned out to have a cast-iron alibi. The fact that Fadi had lied about their relationship didn't make him a suspect either. But news of his affair devastated Nisha's family and friends.
I couldn't believe that he was capable of doing what he did. I never expected that for 1 minute.
I felt stupid for hugging him when I found out Nisha died, because I thought he lost something, but it just made you think you haven't lost anything really, because you've got another life that we never knew about.
News of the affair also prompted police to dig deeper into Fadi's background. They discovered that he had served a 9-month sentence for dangerous driving in 1998, and that more recently he had a questionable way of making a living.
Fadi had worked for a pizza company for a number of years, and after that he started a car cleaning company. He then apparently has started an escort agency called Seventh Heaven.
When Nisha first met him, Fadi was running Seventh Heaven from his mobile phone, with girls working from his one-bedroom flat.
Nisha was aware of this escort agency business, although she did not approve of it.
She didn't like the escort agency at all, because it is obviously such a dirty business to be in, and especially as she was training for the Special Constable, you don't want to be related to something like this.
Nisha finally persuaded him to shut down the escort business and go into partnership with her instead. They would run a limousine hire company together. Although, as police discovered, it was Nisha who financed it.
All the money came from Nisha. When they bought the limousine, the money used was money borrowed from Nisha's family. He did not give any money to the business.
Nisha had also single-handedly raised £400,000 to buy the marital home in Wembley.
Fadi gave no money into that, and as far as we were aware, he didn't bring any money into the marriage.
Nisha had confided to friends that while she loved Fadi, he wasn't much of a business partner.
Nisha actually used to refer to Fadi as a dosser. He was very badly organized. He was always late. The only thing he was good at was driving.
Nisha's relatives may once have been protective of her husband, despite his laziness. But once they learned of his affair, things were different. Now they were happy to tell detectives about his strange behavior since the murder. They revealed that since he had handed over his mobile phone to police, he'd been obsessed about what they might find on it.
It really worried him to the point where he couldn't sleep. And now I'm really worried, you know, the police have got my phone and I know some dodgy people and they're going to think I'm a bad person.
He kept saying to myself and everyone, there's a lot of dodgy people on his mobile phone. There's Turkish gangs on there, Kurdish gangs.